Welcome to yet another episode of the 13 News Now Sports Overtime Podcast. We are joined, some say his footprints are still on the mound at Goochland High till this day. Brian Smith is here.
Yay! Nah, they're not. Trust me.
They probably because they retired the mound after you left.
It's been bulldozed. The school, it's a new school, all that stuff. No,
that's right. They knew they couldn't live up to the standard you set, so they said we got to start fresh.
I had no standard.
And of course, his application just before the start of this pod, he sent his application off to be a cast member on the next season of Love Island. Shane Fordham is here.
Yeah. I they told me I'll be on season 8, guys. I made the cut. Season 8.
Wow.
Season 8 of Love Island. Yeah. He'll take a hiatus from the pod, but we will get to watch him on television.
I'll be gone for 1 week. I'll only be gone for 1 week because I already know I'm not gonna find love. I'm not gonna find it. So I'll be gone for 1 week. I'll be back.
Here's the thing, Shane.
It won't take me too long.
You may not find love, but you will immediately get competitive. And I am sure that you will just forget the love part and just focus on the game part, and you'll be there for the long haul. I'm certain of that.
To be honest, probably not. I'll just be there for the food anyway. If you saw them breakfasts they be making, they look good.
I'll be distracted. I've yet to see an episode.
We're gonna get you on the way, B. Smith.
Oh no, that's okay.
All right, so B. Smith, I'm going to give you a quick before we jump into the sports, and I promise y'all we will talk sports. Love Island is a Love Island television show sweeping the nation. Every morning, all the girls sit around this big table, and the guys who they're coupled up with cook them breakfast and bring it to them. But every episode, there's like at least one person without a couple as part of the competition, and they just
goes
don't
hungry.
Get breakfast. They just
goes
don't get
hungry.
Breakfast. It's tough.
Starving.
It is tough. All right, let's jump into some sports right now. It's the summertime, okay? You know, the thing we're here to talk about. It's the summertime, but the NBA has become a year-round sport, and there's been a lot of movement amongst players and teams in the NBA over the last 2 weeks. Now, there's a number of interesting moves. I don't know that any one move necessarily stands out to the point where it has earned the spot of unequivocally our first topic. So what I want to do is I want to let each of you guys bring up the move that's most interesting to you, and we'll discuss that move. And then we can touch on some of the ones that don't get mentioned after that. I didn't prep you for this. It's off the top of the dome, but you guys are good about that. Who wants to go first?
You got to be Smith.
All right. They're passing the baton off to each other.
Passing the baton, yes. It's okay.
You want me to go first? Y'all ready?
Go for it.
All right, I'll go first. Y'all can keep thinking, do some brainstorming. For me, what stood out is a move that I found to be basically unprecedented in modern basketball, which is that the Milwaukee Bucks stretched Damian Lillard's contract. Now, what that means is rather than pay Damian Lillard the remainder of his contract to be a member of the team for the next few years, they've stretched that money out over a longer period of time. He is off the team, and they will pay that money over the course of those years for no player. They'll be paying Damian Lillard for the next 5 years, $22 million a year to not be on the team rather than pay him, I can't remember his exact salary, somewhere in the 40s to be on the team. This created enough cap space to go and get Miles Turner from the Pacers. So they got Miles Turner, but in order to do that, they will spend the next half a decade paying Damian Lillard $22 million to not be a Milwaukee Buck. It is a move that you only make if you are absolutely desperate. And it seems like the Milwaukee Bucks are desperate to keep Giannis on their team. So they see a weak Eastern Conference. They see a superstar who wants to compete. Their current roster has this Damian Lillard who's not going to be playing next season with an Achilles and looked like his career might be on a little bit of a downslope as an older guard anyway. So they stretch Dame Lillard, fiscally irresponsible, but they're able to get Miles Turner by doing so.
It sounds like an NBA version of Bobby Bonilla Day. So it'll be Dame Dollar Day?
Shades of Bobby Bonilla. But my question for you, I don't know the particulars of the Mets deal with Bobby Bonilla. Does the money they're paying him count against the salary cap?
Well, technically, since they don't really have a cap per se, and this is old because the contract originally was for $5.8 million, but because of compounded interest. I'm not an accountant, 8% and all that stuff. He is now getting paid upwards of this is in 2000. So that still goes until 2035. So literally a decade left. He just got paid $1.13 million. He gets that until he'll probably be in the 70s by the time that happens. But
so Bobby Bonilla gets $1 million to stay away from the Mets.
Yes.
For a sport that does not have a hard salary cap.
Yes.
The Bucks are going to be paying $22 million to Damian Lillard to stay away from the team in a sport that has a salary cap.
Yes.
$22 million for no player. And in signing Miles Turner to a multi-year deal, they're essentially giving Miles Turner $50 million a year if you count that Damian Lillard. Like, am I explaining this well? It's a very weird.
It sounds about right, because you got to remember this is the new era of you can't have a big three. And so because of that, you have to get creative when it comes to salaries now.
But
they got rid of their big two.
This is not. You say you can't have a big three, so you have to be smart with the salary cap.
They weren't being smart. I
with
said
the
you had to
salary
be
cap.
smart. I didn't say they were being smart.
3 years from now, they're going to be paying Damian Lillard $22 million, but he won't be a Buck.
Nope.
Also, they could be better next year.
That's why I remember last week we were talking about how certain teams like the Magic are positioning themselves through the draft. So they're getting guys young, the rookie minimum 3 years, all that stuff. It goes up, but they're using the draft and less on free agency. That's why they got Bain over on their side. That's one of the few moves, like I said last week, that was like their first move since 2021 for a trade. So teams like Orlando or Oklahoma City, they're relying less on free agency and going through the draft and building that way.
So
to be honest,
go ahead, Shane.
I was going to say, to be honest with you, I don't know which trade or which move was weirder. The Bucks handling of Damian Lillard or the Steelers trading their all-pro safety Mikah Fitzpatrick for an injured Jalen Ramsey. I know we're going to talk about that specific move later, but honestly, I don't know which one is weirder. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure which one I dislike more between the two.
I think this one is I think the Lillard one is definitely weirder.
It's out there, yeah.
Because the Steelers are still going to be paying players that play for their team.
Yeah.
The Bucks are paying players that don't play for their team. I feel like I did a bad job of explaining this. Let me just
it's actually that's the trend for baseball now. That's why I'll use another
basketball,
example.
baby.
Well, basketball. In the case of baseball, for example, Shohei Ohtani got paid that huge contract, but it's backloaded. So the Dodgers essentially right now starting out are paying like $200 million roughly of the $700 million deal. They're going to backload that stuff. So he's not going to be around, but they still got to pay him that contract. But they're one of the few teams that could probably afford him for the time being.
And they have no salary cap. And he's the best player in the world.
I will say this. They will pay a luxury tax, which some billionaire owners don't mind doing.
I think, honestly, in the way the Bucks handle Damian Lillard, I mean, it obviously clearly shows they just have zero faith in him whatsoever. Like, zero faith in a fully recovered Damian Lillard, that you're willing to pay him to not play on your team. You're willing to pay him to be nowhere near the organization. Honestly, if I'm Damian Lillard, I'm taking that as disrespect. I'm honestly taking that as disrespect.
It is unquestionably disrespectful.
Look, if I'm Dame Lillard at this age and I'm recovering from an Achilles tear and I'm getting paid upwards of $40+ million a year, guaranteed. Disrespect me.
Well, here's what it is. And now Damian Lillard, once he's recovered, will get to sign with the team of his choosing, which is helpful for him as a veteran player. But Damian Lillard had 2 years and $113 million remaining on his contract. So $52 million a year. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that wrong. What's that? That's going to be $56-ish million a year for 2 years.
Yeah.
Instead, to be on the team. Though next year he wouldn't have played. Instead, it's going to be $23 million a year for 5 years to not be on the team.
I mean, Milwaukee, they're a small market team. They knew better. going in. They still did it anyway. They knew what they were getting into when it came to having Dame's contract. They knew it. Nobody saw the worst-case scenario.
I think they were expecting the production, though, to match those numbers a little more, because, Damian Lillard, but I can't even – it's not even just that the production wasn't there. It's that he did start having injury issues in a Bucks uniform. Damian Lillard, before coming to the Bucks, he really had a history of being one of the more dependable guys who you knew was going to be on the court. Like in terms of his durability, his ability to put up those numbers, like everything that he was prior to coming to Milwaukee, he showed he was that guy. He was a durable guy. He was definitely an elite point guard in the NBA. I still think he could be that. It's just I think the Milwaukee Bucks got a little spooked out by the injuries because he missed he really missed two postseasons with the Bucks. He missed valuable time last year. A big reason why the Pacers won the way they did when they saw the Bucks, and then obviously this year being out, the entire postseason. So I think they got scared with the injuries, and I honestly think they saw. They see what the Sixers go through every year with Joel Embiid. So I kind of see the logic a little bit in wanting to make a move earlier rather than waiting until it's too late. But I think this was definitely not the right way.
Well, here's the other thing. They wouldn't have been able to afford Miles Turner without him. They decided they needed to go get an actual player. But here's what happened. I agree with Shane that the premise of trading for Dame was, in my opinion, the right one. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You won a title in 2021. It's obvious that team, with Chris Middleton aging and Drew Holiday, was no longer capable of contending, or at least it seemed that way. And you have Giannis, and you don't have any of your picks. So now you have to go and do something to make your team competitive with Giannis. Basically, you've got one more shot to take to make your team competitive with Giannis. You're going to dig a hole and go get Damian Lillard and hope that Dame and Giannis together is enough to form a competitive team in the East, right? So you dig into that hole, you're sitting in that hole, and you're like, all right, hopefully this duo is enough to dig us out of that hole. That duo didn't work. Your last shot, essentially, in terms of your assets at creating a team around Giannis to win a title did not work. So you're sitting in this hole, right? Most teams would say, all right, it didn't work. We had a good run. Let's go trade Giannis for a Paul George-style haul. Let's go reset. Giannis can go elsewhere and finish his career. Instead, what the Bucks did is they said, what if we dig a little deeper into this hole?
Try and exhaust all options.
What if we just dig a little further down? And maybe down there, we'll be able to find what we need to crawl out of this into contention. And it's just, it was over. You tried the Dame thing. It didn't work. I think it was a smart shot because of everything Shane said. It didn't work. So now you have to reset. And the only way to not reset is to do crazy, desperate things. And this is a crazy, desperate thing.
Yeah, I think, this move was wrong for a lot of different reasons. You put your team in more of a financial hole, but then you also disgruntle your superstar who really, I believe, was this close to, demanding a trade, demanding out of there. But you not only put your team in a hole financially, you also put your team in a hole morally, with your superstar. Like the last thing the Bucks need, the last thing the Bucks need.
Can we use the word vibes instead of morals?
Moral.
Yeah,
vibes.
Yeah,
the Bucks are despicable
the last thing the Bucks needed after the season they're coming off of was to not only waste money, but to also just piss off Giannis even more. Like
You think they didn't? I feel like they have to have consulted with him on this.
I think maybe they did.
He is very upset. Giannis talked about it on social media. He was not in favor of this move.
Oh, can you pull those up? Apologies for not being prepared as the host. Can you pull those up?
Hold on.
I can't imagine. I think they did this, and I get what you're saying, Shane, because it might have had an effect that they didn't foresee. I think they did this to appease Giannis. I think they thought, Damian Lillard's not going to play all next year. Giannis doesn't want to waste a year. So let's go get him a real player And he'll see the financial sacrifice that we're making, and that will appease Giannis. Here's the other thing. While he's looking that up, B. Smith, I do want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is there something we're missing here? Because there's no Tyrese Halliburton and there's no Jason Tatum in the East next year, right? Mm-hmm. So is Giannis, Miles Turner, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent, and a collection of other role players with Giannis at his absolute prime, could that be enough to go make the conference finals or make the finals?
I don't think so. Definitely not, in my humble opinion. You had mentioned, Giannis being upset. I remember I had a conversation with Dave Twardzik, former ODU great and GM with the Golden State Warriors, and we kind of talked a little bit about, making moves without, asking your star. And Dave kind of put it, well, yeah, you kind of should, but at the end of the day, you got to make the move that you feel fits you best. It's not going to please that star player. So you have to do what you think is best.
This is also a situation where everything they're doing, it seems, is to try to keep Giannis.
Yes.
So if you're just operating from a place of we're building the best team we can, our star will deal with it, that's one thing. But when you're clearly like, well, this is all about keeping him, then you better ask him before you do something like this. The other part of
That's why I don't think they had that conversation.
The other factor is here, Miles Turner is a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Miles Turner is worth all this.
No.
Right? If they went and did this for, no one's coming to mind, but if they went and did this for a player that's an all-NBA player, then that's one thing where you go and say, okay, now we got two studs on this team. Let's go do some things. But Miles Turner is a good player, really good.
Yeah.
And it was just a major part of a finals team. But he is not worth what, if you add up Dame's stretched salary and Turner's salary, you're essentially paying Miles Turner $50 million a year.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
just,
that he is not
worth that kind of money.
But
the GM would probably go, no.
I mean, maybe they're looking around and they're like, the Magic are unproven, and then the Knicks and Cavs are good. And so can we, with Giannis on our team and a good supporting cast and a strong center to counteract Cat and Mobley, could we just go win the East and then all is well and all feels better? I'm with you. Oh, man, I hate doubting Giannis.
I mean, you don't want to doubt
him in the league.
A lot of this, he needs somebody. He needs that 1A. And they're, to my knowledge,
but that's what they're trying to do. That's what this was about, was trying to go get a 1A. I don't think Miles Turner's a 1A.
And then they say they tried it, they gave it a shot, they figure why not.
All right, what do we got here? I see you found it. Give me what you got, Shane. You're muted.
Keep going. I'm gonna frame it up for you guys. But yeah, there is a tweet, short story. NBA insider Chris Hayes confirmed this. Giannis was definitely not in favor of this trade, so they clearly did not consult him.
They didn't talk to him.
Which B. Smith, you touched on. I mean, sometimes that doesn't happen where superstars aren't consulted, but where as much as Giannis has done, with as much as he has done for this team, as big of a role, as important as he is to this team, it seems like it would be in their best interest to consult him, especially on a matter like this where it involves his running mate, his co-pilot, or someone who they thought would be his co-pilot. It just seems like a terrible move to not. But let me pull this up for you guys really quick.
Well, and for what it's worth, there's also, you got to, Giannis is not a general manager. He's a player. As great as he is, does he have some influence? Sure. But at the end of the day, he's not the assistant general manager or the general manager making such decisions. That is done by your GM.
He should be. I think he should. I think that within reason, Giannis should be consulted on all moves going forward. I think he's earned that, and I think you're obviously trying to keep him there. I think he should be consulted.
100%.
Sometimes that's not going to be the case for a market like Milwaukee. That's not, because, I mean, not to bring up LeBron, but we've seen situations where they've listened to him and things go sideways. And that's with the Lakers. And so I can't imagine being a smaller market team like Milwaukee. You can't make mistakes like that in this era when it comes to – I'm not a cap person or capologist or an analytics person, but from the people I've talked with, you got to make the right decision. It's got to make sense. You're trying to win now with a superstar in Giannis. And if he ain't happy, there's not much you can do. They tried doing what they could.
At this point, they
imagine that they wouldn't. I see the tweet that you put up. Great research, Shane. I do know that Chris Haynes is Damian Lillard's guy.
Sure.
Those two have a very close relationship, and Chris Haynes was at the top of the reporting when Lillard was making his way out of Portland. So he's Lillard's guy. I don't know if that plays a factor in this. I'm not doubting Chris Haynes' reporting. I guess I'm just astonished that the Bucks would not, whether it's through back channels or through his agent or whatever, they would not make sure that there wasn't approval on this from Giannis's camp. I just can't believe that wouldn't happen.
Maybe they thought about it and they said, you know what? We've known Giannis long enough. He don't like it. They figured they didn't err on the side of caution to at least let him know.
And we're speculating. We don't know.
Yeah. But like I said, I've talked to a guy who's a former NBA general manager, and it's not always going to please the player. I don't care what you don't care what team that they're playing for. You can't get everything you want. You can push, but they don't have to necessarily say, you know what? Now we're going to make this move, whether you like it or not.
But the Bucks' whole thing is pleasing Giannis. I'm sorry, Shane. Go ahead.
Well, no. I was just going to say it's possible they could have consulted him and just said, we're going to, regardless of how Giannis feels, we're going to go through with this. But that does make me think that we could be seeing a Giannis trade soon.
Sure.
Like if they made a decision knowing how, if they made this decision knowing how Giannis felt about it prior to pulling the trigger, I think that means we could see a Giannis trade for a haul, like how you talked about Connor, because it doesn't make sense to me that.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. You do not do this if you're going to trade Giannis. There's no way that you agree to pay Damian Lillard $22 million a year for the next 5 years in dead money if you're going to trade Giannis. You just wouldn't do this. You would trade Giannis, and you wouldn't do this because they don't want Miles Turner if they don't have Giannis.
Yeah, no, I get it.
They would just tank it out.
They also lost Brook Lopez, so they still needed a center that also has the ability to stretch the floor like Miles Turner showed to be able to do with the Pacers. So it's a weird move regardless, but that's the only way I can make sense of this is if they are still trying to shop Giannis for a haul to be able to start fresh with a Miles Turner who is coming off a championship run with maybe a haul you get for Giannis. I don't know.
You don't start fresh with Miles Turner at 50.
Think of this, guys.
It's not a good move. I don't know how else to make. I don't see the Bucks thinking.
Think of this from a baseball perspective. There's a technical term for this. It's called a fire sale. Milwaukee's trying not to do that, but they might as well.
But they're not selling; they're buying.
No, I get it.
They bought Miles Turner.
Yeah, unfortunately, they shouldn't have done that.
You don't go
They're
get
in
Miles Turner
between. Well, do we keep? Do we want? If you're going to do it, do what the Marlins did. Back in the day, the Marlins would win a World Series title, then do a fire sale. Everybody's gone. Everybody's for sale. Come back with another team. Whole nother team. They win another World Series title, and then they sell everybody off. And fans don't like that. But if you're not a franchise that doesn't have the money and the wisdom to put a team together that's fiscally responsible but very successful, that's the hard part. And Milwaukee's having struggle. They're struggling with that right now.
And the Miami Marlins are currently 39-46, 11 games out of first place in the
Exactly.
NL. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
All right. Clearly, this is so confusing that we've had to reach unforeseen areas of our minds to try to make sense of it. Hopefully, Giannis, Turner, and Portis, it's a strong front court. You'd love to see the Bucks compete. But this is the last thing we'll say on it. What?
You named those three guys like that should be with how competitive the East looks this year.
It's not competitive.
It's exactly.
I think it is competitive. I think it 100% is competitive. I think it is 100%. Are you telling me this Bucks squad still has a shot in the East this year?
Everyone has a shot in the East this year that doesn't live in
Not
Washington.
Not the Bucks. Even with Giannis, this is just my opinion.
No.
Even with Giannis, the Bucks don't have a shot in the East this year. I mean, we're talking about a reinforced Knicks team who are gonna, and we're gonna be talking about this, but
Reinforced with who?
they just improved. B. Smith, your squad has
Yabusele?
definitely improved this bench.
Yabusele?
They got Yabs. They got Jordan
Yes!
Clarkson, and they're
We're
about to
calling him
they're about to
Yabs?
get it. They got Yabs. They got Yabs. I was sad as a Sixers fan. I was sad to see Yabs go. That's a valuable piece off the bench. They got Jordan Clarkson, the scorer, off the bench. They still retained their squad from last year, which allows them to have a lot of different lineups. Play big, play small. They're getting a new coach in Mike Brown, which I know we're going to touch on.
What?
I respect
clear the runway. Put him in the finals. They got Mike Brown.
I didn't say no. I'm not saying the Knicks are the favorite. I'm just saying that the East is more competitive than people think.
It's open. I get it.
The Knicks are reinforced. The Hawks made some good moves this offseason in the draft and in free agency. The Magic getting Bane. The Sixers getting VJ Edgecombe. I mean, the Cavs, a healthy Cavs team. My point is the East is more of a competition than people think. I don't think the Bucks are making a run against really any of those teams.
Three teams tops in the East.
So what are the three? What are the three teams that are going to be competing?
And well, you got
the Knicks, Cavs, and Magic right now.
Magic,
we'll see if Golden can get healthy.
And I say this with caution. I reluctantly include the Knicks in this.
And the Pistons. We didn't say Pistons.
Oh, I'm sorry. And
they're in this conversation.
Pistons, Pacers.
B. Smith is the most negative Knicks fan I've ever met in my life.
I'll say this.
Once again, when you've been through
what you've been through, when you've the pain and torture
in a franchise,
you know how many rules?
Get back to me.
Do you know how many rules have changed in the NBA since the era of basketball that you're referring to? Do you know how many regulations have been altered since what you're referring to?
Get back to me in 10 years if the Sixers are still in the same position.
The last time the Knicks made the finals, players used to look at the ball when they dribbled. You know what I mean? Okay,
you know that's wrong.
But if we're being real, the East Conference is really, could really have 6 teams that could make a run in the conference.
Maybe.
We're talking about the Pistons. We're talking about the Magic.
Top, maybe 4.
There's no way, but perspective from the Bucks, at least.
Did you not tell me at the time when the Pacers were playing the Knicks, B. Smith, they got a shot. This is great. And game 1, what happened?
The Knicks had a shot. It took 6 games. The Knicks had a shot.
I digress.
Deep. But my point is, at least from the Bucks' perspective, this is a competitive conference that they're not just going to be able to have a nice, easy stroll through just because they have Giannis. They got to worry about the Pistons
on that pending trades between 6 or 7 teams.
But I'm saying at least
wait for the dust to settle on that one.
But at least as the way the East looks right now, the Bucks have to worry about the Pistons. They have to worry about a healthy Cavs team. They got to worry about your Knicks. They got to worry about the Magic. They got to worry about the 76ers. And in my opinion, they got to worry about the Hawks. So this is definitely a more competitive conference than I think a lot of people think is going to be.
I'm reluctant.
Definitely more competitive than it was last year.
I can appreciate the take, all right? I can appreciate that everyone seems to think one way, and so you're looking for a zag. I like that you're trying this.
This ain't about me trying to be different. This is me. No, you can't tell me.
But you are being different. You're doing a good job of creating a case, all right? But as of right now, the last 2 teams to come out of the conference, the 2 best teams in the conference last year, and the last 2 teams to come out of the East are both out for next season. They're both out, okay? You had about 30 seconds into your argument before you had to bring up VJ Edgecombe.
Exactly.
So that's how you know that the conference isn't that strong. I think the Knicks are dangerous, but it seemed like they had a pretty clear ceiling based on what we saw last year. Can Mike Brown make it? Hold on one second, B. Smith. Hold on 1 second. I think the Knicks are a good team with a good roster that you can look at and say, could this team make some noise in the finals? I think the Cavs fit that bill as well. I think the Sixers are a massive question mark, and we cannot put them in the bucket of competitive East. I think the Magic have never proven anything, and we cannot put them in the bucket of this is a super competitive conference style bucket. All right, the Hawks have made some nice moves this summer. Who's the Hawks' second best player?
Kristaps right now. But he's a question mark
because
because he's a question mark. I understand because of the health.
In general, if Kristaps is your second best player,
Probably maybe Dyson Daniels.
That is not a contender. If KP is your second best player, and then we get to the Pistons, who just made the playoffs for the first time in 171 years last season. Yeah. James Madison was the president the last times the Pistons were in the postseason.
It hasn't been that long.
What they have, what the East has, let me wrap this up real quick. I'll throw it back to you. What the East has is a bunch of fun, entertaining teams. That is what they have. But if you go through the contenders to win a title in the league, how many teams do you get through before you get to the East?
Well, that's different. I think that's a different question. Me saying
to the competitiveness of the conference.
But me saying the East is competitive is not me saying that all the teams I mentioned are true finals contenders.
You're saying what you're saying is all the teams are equally average to bad.
That's not, but that's I think that once you get past the Knicks and the Cavs, in terms, obviously those two are true contenders out of the East. I think you now get into, when you look at the Hawks, when you look at the Magic, when you look at even the Sixers, like when you look at those teams, you see teams that I believe have higher ceilings than people are giving them credit for, especially because of the talent they have and the depth that they have.
I would say the Sixers have a really high ceiling.
I would probably say the Magic before anybody else because of what the move that they made. I think
that's fair.
The only question mark I have about the Knicks is that obviously if it's official with Mike Brown being head coach, now you got a guy that's in his first year trying to bring a team together in his mold and make it work.
Okay, let's segue. Let's segue.
I really want to talk Knicks now.
Concern.
Yeah. Let's segue into Mike Brown. Segue into Mike Brown, as always, out of respect. When we talk Knicks, we let Brian Smith go first. Brian, you guys went and got Mike Brown.
That's because everybody else said no. You had teams that literally said no. Went to Houston. No, nada, Nathan. That's what.
Let's just recap for the
Staley as a possibility. And I love Dawn Staley.
My bad.
That's where we're at right now. And so,
you got to let him go, Connor. Once he gets started,
I know. That's my fault.
I'm sorry. Mike Brown's a safe pick. He's a safe pick. I'll say that. Yes, he had success in Cleveland with LeBron. Yes, he had success in Sacramento. But do I look like, ooh, that's a great – I'd rather have Kenny Atkinson. And Kenny Atkinson could coach. I remember Kenny Atkinson. Oh, no, don't go there. He's a great coach. He is a great coach.
I feel like you're using that as just ammo to just disrespect Mike Brown, though. I'm not trying to.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I kind of wish. Well, maybe they did try to ask for Kenny Atkinson, and they said no. Kenny Atkinson has New York ties. Not to date myself, but I remember
when
he was
coaching another team.
I know.
Here's the problem.
The big issue with the Knicks. No, but see, the big issue with the Knicks is that they tried to ask for permission, and they were met with solid, oh, heck no.
I mean, duh. What?
I mean, I would. I'd be the same way.
What they fired Tom Thibodeau, and then they called
they
called like the 6 best coach teams in the league, and they were like, "Hey, yo, it's New York. Could we?
No,
your guy.
And that's
we could have your guy, our guy. Yeah, we'd rather have your guy."
You've heard,
and the other teams were like, "What?"
I wish Tibbs had gotten another year because this is the first year with these guys, but that didn't happen. The GM got impatient, and I said that's fine. But you better have a great solution for this. And technically, I'm not saying Mike Brown is safe, but he kind of is.
When you say safe, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean when you say safe?
He's all right. I mean, remember,
he knows how to run a solid.
He knows how to run a team. But
he's going to have a good staff. He's going to have a good system. He knows how to work day to day with players.
He's
a veteran NBA coach.
I get it. I get all of that. But I wasn't thrilled when I said, okay, we got Mike Brown. All right.
Considering – now, here's my thing. I want y'all to really hear me out on this. considering where you all could have been this offseason, I think you all got very lucky the fact that Mike Brown is even available.
I will agree with that. Given the nose that they got, yes.
But you all clearly had no plan going into this offseason after firing Tom. Like, if you like you all now, B. Smith, I agree with you. I wouldn't have been upset if the Knicks kept Tom Thibodeau for another year, because I think we definitely would have seen. I mean, given that it was his first year, Eastern Conference Finals, I think we would have seen even more success with the Knicks off of the offseason moves they made this year, player-wise, personnel-wise. I think we would have. I think the Knicks would have possibly been a finals team this year if they kept Thibodeau. But with that being said, I think you guys got very lucky with Mike Brown, because I think Mike Brown could really do some things with this squad that maybe Tom Thibodeau hasn't shown. I mean, I think Mike Brown could have done things. I think Mike Brown could do things with this offense specifically that Tom maybe wasn't able to do. Like, if you're looking at Mike Brown is really one of the most winningest current coaches in the NBA right now.
In the regular season.
But even playoffs, like if you look at Mike Brown, we're talking about a guy that has been to five finals. He's won one with Bron, and there wasn't a lot of talent on that squad. He's been to four others as an assistant coach.
Oh, okay. No,
he's been four others as an assistant coach. So
he never won a title with Bron.
But hear me out. No, he didn't win. He's been to one. He won four as an assistant coach. He's been to one with Bron in 2007. He's won four as an assistant coach. But then you're looking at a guy, so he not only knows how to work with teams that maybe aren't the most talented, but he also knows how to work with superstars. He has a history of working with superstars. He's worked with Bron. He's worked with Steph. He's worked with Hall of Famers like Tim Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, David Robinson. So I think that knowledge and experience will help him working with Brunson, who is an emerging superstar, a guy who is kind of knocking on that door, has been for the past couple of seasons. Then you're also looking at a guy who has a history of elevating his team as well. He goes to the Kings in 2022. All of a sudden, they're a top 3 team in the West. The year before that, they had 30 wins on the season, coming off of a almost 20-year drought.
Is he going to do a De'Aaron Fox reference?
I mean, but even looking at De'Aaron Fox, the King, if he could turn around a Kings team that had less talent than the way your Knicks look right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think he'll be able to do to a Knicks team that is coming off of an Eastern Conference championship run? With a guy who has a higher ceiling than De'Aaron Fox.
I get it.
Maybe not higher ceiling, but is playing at a higher caliber than De'Aaron Fox has ever played.
Yeah. He has a higher ceiling. He has a way higher ceiling.
I don't want to say higher ceiling because De'Aaron Fox is more athletic and he's a better defender. But he's definitely a better guard right now.
When you think De'Aaron Fox is like 22 years old?
But we've never. I think he's gonna. This is kind of off topic. But I mean, we're seeing De'Aaron Fox play in the best system he has ever been in, being in a pop DNA system with a future superstar in Wemby. They just got Dylan Harper this year. So I mean, but that's besides the point though. If Mike Brown could do what he did with the Kings. He has, with the championship and playoff history that he has, with the experience that he has working with superstars and really unlocking their offensive capabilities, I think this Knicks team could be very dangerous. I think you're underselling that because even if you look at the Kings,
all right.
Let me say this before I finish. When Mike Brown's first year with the Kings were one of the top ranked offenses in the NBA. They needed work on defense. But Mike Brown has shown the ability to improve defenses with what we saw from that 2007 Cavs team. The Cavs team was a defensive team. And then the Warriors were also solid defensive teams when he was on the squad. So, I'm in favor of this hire. I mean, I'm way more excited about this than you are, B. Smith. And
I agree with everything. I agree with everything Brian said. I just completely and totally. This was their safety school. This was their safe option. I don't see any of what Shane's talking about where he has all the let's do this. How about we don't brag about his titles as an assistant coach with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant on his team? How about we don't use those as a part of this shrine to Mike Brown that we just built. He's a very good.
My point is he's used to the stage. He's used to the stage.
All kidding aside, guys, because I know I get criticized.
No, but you're right on this one.
But when you've seen as much as I've had to see,
we know, man.
I mean, I hate to sound like an old man, but when you've seen as much as I've seen over time, that included Phil Jackson coming back and making things a disaster, dealing with James Dolan as an owner. The fact that they got to the Eastern Conference Finals and were like literally 2 games from going to the finals with Tibbs on a team that basically was in its first year with him, with the new faces, I would have given them 1 more year, but that's not the case.
And just everything.
And they got told no after they got rid of Tibbs. So, yeah.
That's why I think they got lucky. That's why I think they got lucky because they
got lucky and they got a safe pick.
Y'all almost were in a position where you had to hire an interim head coach.
Listen,
Mike Brown. That's a great result from what you all could have had this offseason.
As you've heard me say sometimes, man.
I think
so Shane, you think that Mike Brown is a great NBA coach? If that's the case, why did the Knicks not just hire him right away?
Mike Brown, I think why with the season
all
he
the
could.
Teams trying
he
to hire
wasn't
him?
Their first
if I'm the Knicks, I would have hired him right away. Like if they didn't want
Kevin
Malone, if they didn't
I think you would have fired Popovich to get Mike Brown in there as a head coach based on how you're talking. I've literally, I'm not kidding when I say that outside of his own children, I think you are the biggest Mike Brown fan that exists. I've never heard anyone this passionate about Mike Brown in all my days. And the reason is because he seems like a great guy and a good coach, and that's it. And the numbers bear it out. In Cleveland, he had a guy named LeBron James on his team, the GOAT, or maybe number 2. We won't get into it.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.
The second best player of all time was on his team, and he won no titles and went to 1 finals. And then with the Kings, he won 48 games. Now, granted, winning 48 games with the Kings, it's kind of like winning 60 games with any other franchise.
His first season.
That's great.
His first season.
Yes. And
let's not act like Bron carried him either because he got Coach of the Year that year for a reason as well.
Bron carried him, my guy.
And the team was still good defensively. So it's not like Bron just carried him to the finals like Bron carried, some other coaches that he has had during his career. Like I think Mike Brown has proven to be more than a capable head coach in the NBA. I think Mike Brown is one season. Mike Brown is one season away. Mike Brown is 1 season away from us talking about him like Rick Carlisle. He had before this season.
I'm out. Before
this season, he had the same number of finals appearances as Rick Carlisle. The same number. He has more winning seasons than losing seasons. Like you're telling me, you're telling me, B. Smith, you're telling me you're not excited at all about what Mike Brown could do for this squad?
No.
That's crazy to me.
No.
I think that's crazy to me.
I said, man, that's how I feel. I'm sorry. I've seen this before. I know what greatness looks like. I've seen it.
I got it. No, B. Smith, I got it. I've been waiting to give this out. We got worst take of the year. We got a little trophy here. We're gonna mail this.
That's
to Shane
crazy
Warner.
to me.
That's what he gets to. Rick Carlisle. Stop.
Same. Before this year, same amount of finals appearances. Same amount. And honestly, coming out of the East, Mike Brown could easily make the finals this year.
Rick Carlisle took a Mavericks team. Probably, if you look back on it, one of the toughest playoff runs that we could think of, and won a title with Dirk Nowitzki. And Dirk's incredible, but with that team, and they beat LeBron.
Okay, so let me ask you something. You all will diminish what Mike Brown was able to do with the 07 Cavs, but will give Rick. Now, I granted Rick Carlisle won. He won, but Rick Carlisle. But y'all don't take that. Y'all don't hold that against Carlisle.
Rick Carlisle
having
was
a
in
superstar in
Detroit
Dirk.
too. He kind of right. Am I right? He did well in Detroit, right?
He did well in Detroit, and he did well in Indianapolis.
In Indiana.
He's had multiple good stints.
That's
Mike Brown got to Sacramento.
It didn't need a LeBron.
Mike Brown, got to Sacramento.
He had Dirk though. And I'm not taking away from Rick Carlisle. But
Dirk and JJ
Rick Carlisle
Barea.
is a great head coach. But what I'm saying is Mike Brown was able to pull off a similar accomplishment as well with you could say less talent than what Rick Carlisle had in 2011.
No, sorry. Mike Brown could not have taken the Mavs team.
I'm not saying he could have. I'm not saying he could have. I'm not saying if you swap him, he could have. All I'm saying is I just don't think y'all are giving Mike Brown. I'm not saying y'all have to praise him as
average NBA
coach. I give him his respect. I think he's a very good coach. I think he is. I think he's a great coach. However,
you have already carved out. No. You've already carved his Hall of Fame bust.
Yeah, no, he's not.
I'm saying with what we have seen from Mike Brown, them getting Mike Brown is one of the reasons why I think the Knicks right now are the favorite to win the East.
I'll believe it when
that's
I see
one
it.
of the reasons.
All right, so let's quickly talk about Mike Brown. Mike Brown got to Sacramento. He won 48 games. The next year, you would imagine a coach of the stature with which Shane describes would then come back to that same team, and they would continue their growth as a team and an organization. And hey, maybe win a playoff series. That'd be nice, right? For his shining achievement of his coaching career. The next year, they won 46 games. The year after that, they started 13-18, and he got fired. When he was in Cleveland, he had, at worst, the second best player of all time on his team, and he made one finals. Do you know that after Mike Brown stopped being LeBron's coach, LeBron made 8 straight finals? After he left Mike Brown, with Mike Brown, he made 1 finals, and that was in Mike Brown's first year when LeBron James scored 25 straight points to beat the Detroit Pistons in Detroit. I don't think Mike Brown had a whole lot to do with the strategy in that win. That would be my guess. Rick Carlisle is a highly sought-after NBA coach who is partially responsible for the greatest run through the playoffs an NBA team has ever had. Mike Brown was the New York Knicks safety school. Obviously, because they fired Thibodeau, they called every good team under the sun to try to get their coach. None of those guys said yes, so then they went to Mike Brown, who is a good NBA coach. He's good. Exactly. The Knicks are going to be fine. They'll probably be the same.
Yep.
If they get better, it'll be because of improvement with the team having a second year together, right? And maybe, as you guys hit on during the playoffs, Mike Brown will use the depth a little better. And maybe he'll be a little easier on the players, whereas Thibodeau's very hard on his players.
Exactly.
And maybe that will help, right? Yes. But I do not think that Mike Brown is remotely close to the stature of which Shane describes. But I do think the Knicks could be better, but I don't think it'll be because of Mike Brown.
Do I want to be surprised?
We were literally the year he just won Coach of the Year, 3 years ago in the 2022 season? We were talking about Mike Brown just a few years ago as being one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Bro,
so you're telling me, and he's had and he hasn't had, even though he got fired, they clearly didn't reach the heights that they were during the 2022 season. But he had 40 win seasons right after that and got fired. We're not acting like I'm not going to act like he had a huge fall off from his Coach of the Year season in 2022. 2-time Coach of the Year. I don't think you guys are giving this signing enough credit. I'm not saying the Knicks will be able to outlast the Thunder or beat anybody coming out of the West with this hire.
2 years before Mike Brown. 2 years before Mike Brown won Coach of the Year, Tom Thibodeau won Coach of the Year with the New York Knicks. So I don't see why didn't they keep him? They got another Coach of the Year already.
Well, I said, I wouldn't have minded.
Would you rather have Brown or Thibodeau? Brown or Thibodeau, Shane? Who would you rather have as coach of the Knicks next year?
I go Thibodeau.
All right, so maybe Mike Brown isn't Mike Brown isn't as great as we thought.
I would go Brown.
Oh, you changed it.
No,
I would go Brown.
I'm just saying I would go Tibbs only because this was the first year with this team, this new set of players. He needed another year, but he didn't get it. Now Brown has to do it in his first year, his system with Tibbs players.
All right, Shane.
One thing Brown does definitively better than Thibodeau is maximize his roster. He has shown the capability of doing that. Now, I think at least more than Thibodeau. I don't think that's definitive at least more than Thibodeau, which is why I would
put it this way: if they start off 13-18, he's going to be in some trouble.
Well, of course he would. If that happens, of course he would. I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, any coach would be in trouble if they start off 13-18. Of course.
You said he maximizes his roster?
I said he is shown more capable of maximizing his roster than Thibodeau, for sure.
I think that is extremely debatable, and you use the word definitively, which I don't think applies in this situation at all. Mike Brown was the coach of the 2012 Los Angeles Lakers with Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol, and they made no noise whatsoever. Did he maximize that roster? Mike Brown never got LeBron back to the finals after 2007. Did he maximize those rosters?
You could say, but that team had significantly less talent, though. That team had significantly less talent.
But you know what?
Getting to the finals was an accomplishment.
Figured that stuff out. And remember, during the series with Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City had to make adjustments because of what Rick Carlisle was doing. That's what makes him who he is.
Mike Brown hasn't won a playoff series since 2010. That's 16 years ago. Mike Brown hasn't won a playoff series in 16 years, Shane. But he is.
Yeah, I feel great about this pick.
Mike Brown was the coach of the 2014.
I should feel excited about this pick.
With Kyrie Irving, they went 33-49. Did he maximize that roster? The next year, LeBron got there, and they went to the finals. Tristan Thompson, Deion Waiters, Kyrie Irving, Matthew Dellavedova, back before he was Matthew Dellavedova.
Oh, wow.
Okay, anyway, we're off track. Shane, I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I do think Mike Brown's a good head coach. You put B. Smith and I in a position where we had to diss Mike Brown. We don't want to diss Mike Brown. We like Mike Brown.
Y'all put yourself in that position.
You and I
did that to yourself.
Well, we're just watching different basketball games than you. We're just I don't know what games you've got more channels than us. You've got more channels. No. Okay, let's move on. We always go long on the Knicks. It is our way. It would be inappropriate if we didn't go long on the New York Knicks. Okay, we have time to talk about. We're going to talk NFL. Would you guys rather talk Lakers or Rockets? Oh, I didn't let you guys. We got off track. I picked the Dame trade. Brian picked Mike Brown. Do you have a pick for an NBA team, move, or player that you want to discuss, Shane? That's how we started.
Well, technically, Mike Brown was my choice. I was going to
go with the Rockets myself.
Okay, let's do Rockets.
I love the Rockets. It's more than just.
He loves Mike Brown.
He just got me on a tangent. That's what it was.
B-Smith, did he say that Mike Brown was one season away from being Rick Carlisle?
I said being talked about like Rick Carlisle in that season window. We were talking about him that way a few years ago when he won Coach of the Year.
Stop it! I'm going the Rockets.
He got fired by that. Okay, you're right.
That was years later. I'm saying in that season. But go ahead, B. Smith. Go ahead, B.
Smith. Less than 1.5 seasons later, Mike Brown was fired by the very team that he won Coach of the Year for. Now, granted, it's the Kings.
The Kings in the West. The Kings in the West. They're coming off. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2006 before Mike Brown got there.
Why are we even? Who cares about the West? According to you, the East is a super conference.
Don't twist my words like that.
Do me a solid.
Let's talk Rockets.
Let's get away from Mike Brown. I'm happy for now. As far as the Rockets, it's more than just Dorian Finney-Smith.
Local guy.
Fred VanVleet. But how about Kevin Durant?
Yeah, you buried the lead.
Gosh. I mean, the moves they made with this.
They're loaded. I mean, they're really loaded.
Oh, my gosh. If they're healthy with their head coach, oh, my gosh.
Are they the second best team in the NBA?
Minimum third. Second, I don't know yet. But at the very least, top three. Easily with that lineup, if they're healthy.
So they've got, I'm going to run through just quick. They've got Steven Adams, Clint Capella, and Jock Landau. Would have been nice if they left one of those guys for the Lakers, but they didn't. And then they've got Alperen Sengun, who is kind of a borderline all-star, low-key. They've got Kevin Durant, NBA superstar, and on this team likely won't have to carry the load that he did with the Suns. They've got Dorian Finney-Smith, who is a very solid two-way player. Reed Shepherd, who barely saw the court last season, but was the number 3 pick in the NBA draft. Jabari Smith, also the number 3 pick in the NBA draft. Amen Thompson, who might be the best player in the NBA by the end of the season. He was a beast last year. And then Cam Whitmore, who might not play at all, but is an extremely talented young player. And Fred VanVleet.
Yep. Just re-signed VanVleet.
And then you throw in Ime Udoka as head coach.
Yeah.
That's what
huge factor.
They won't slip below 3.
Huge.
Can you imagine?
Huge factor.
How good they would be if they had Mike Brown as their head coach?
Now, see, you're joking, but I mean, I wouldn't. I would know by no means take Mike Brown over Ime. I think Ime has.
Sure.
I think he's got a really bright
no
future. But yeah, no. B. Smith, I'm with you. I think the Rockets are probably the biggest winner of this free agency.
Yeah.
I think that's really fair to say. I mean, you look at. I think KD not only allows them to win now, but I think it's also sort of an investment in the future by because I think he's going to play a huge role in also the development of Thompson and Sengun, 2 guys who, I mean, have really just raw, mostly raw talent right now because of how young they are. But I mean, just being as young as they are, really on the verge of dominating the NBA. I mean, 2 guys that, like you said, Connor, by the end of the season, I mean, we could be talking about as all-star guys for sure.
Sengun was an all-star. Sengun made the all-star team last year. I thought he might have 19 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, all-star last year.
Hey, guys, I'm wondering, do you think, in your humble opinion, much like the Pacers when we saw the Reggie Millers of the world showing up to games, are we going to see Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Mario Elliott? Are they going to be showing up at Rockets games now? Because
it's going to be that. It's going to be that type of year.
How about Steve Francis? Francis and Yao Ming.
Yes.
Yao Ming.
Yao Ming sitting courtside. Nobody behind him can see.
I'm telling you, man. They have that kind of making where those guys are going to show up.
Imagine you pay $15,000 or whatever it is for a second row seat at a Rockets playoff game, and you're behind Yao Ming.
Oh, down
the drain, 15 G's. Okay.
I don't know. If I had a conversation with him, I'm cool with that.
Now, the Rockets won 50 games last year, 51 games last year. Hold on, I'm getting research.
52
and 30 last year.
Yep.
And you're essentially sliding Kevin Durant into the Jalen Green spot. And what they struggled with, they lost to the Warriors in the first round in 7 games, a hard-fought series. Were they down 3-1? They came back and made it 3-3 against the Golden State Warriors with a healthy Steph Curry at that time. And what they couldn't do was late in games.
Fourth quarter execution.
Win a series.
Yeah.
They didn't really have a guy who could go do that. They had a great team, but they didn't have the one guy who went tight. It's the end of the shot clock. Got to get an efficient shot. And they thought Jalen Green might be that. He wasn't that. Kevin Durant certainly is that. They also are great for modern basketball. I mean, they're Jabari Smith, Dorian Finney-Smith. They're great out on the wing. They've got versatility. They can play big. They can play small.
They got a Jeff Green on the team as well.
They play defense.
They
play defense.
They have guys experienced. Yeah.
They're so versatile. I mean, I think they are a true contender for the title next season if Kevin Durant can stay healthy.
Last year, they were really the Thunder without a Shea. That's how I look at it. I think they definitely had the depth of the Thunder. They arguably had the coaching of the Thunder. I mean, we saw what Ime did for the Celtics before, but I mean, I definitely think with KD, I mean, the West is just so competitive this year. It's hard to pick, a front runner, but I think the Rockets are definitely, like you said, B. Smith, the Rockets got to be at least top 3 in that argument. At least
they don't dip below 3.
Yeah.
Can Amen Thompson become an all-star? I
think that's interesting because I think I think this year, I think we could see Amen have and Sengun really have more room to operate in this offense, sort of have a little more breathing room with the attention that KD is going to attract from defenses. Like, I think KD, I really think it'll create more open looks for both of those 2 guys, and then I mean, it's really just an all-you-can-eat buffet for the Rockets right now. I think KD. I think KD being on the floor, I think Amen Thompson and Sengun are going to have a little more freedom, on the court. I think that'll diminish the role of, your Fred VanVleets, your Dorians for sure, your Jabari Smiths, but you still got guys that'll be able to hit those shots in the corner on the wings, like the Pacers were able to do this year. I mean, obviously, you had your guys that would cook mostly with Siakam, with Nesmith. Nembhard would explode. Obviously, Tyrese when he decided to flip that switch, but you also had the guys that could hit those open shots as well, like Mathurin, like Bryant coming off the bench, like TJ McConnell coming off the bench. So I think we'll definitely
not a Thomas Bryant shout out on July 3rd on the sports.
He was a knockdown in the playoffs.
Yeah, so
he was a knockdown in the playoffs.
So here's what we need. We need Jabari Smith, all right, here's Jabari Smith from 3 the last 3 years. 30, 36, 35. Can we get Jabari Smith to become a true knockdown 3-and-D guy who can really guard some stud wings, right? I think that would be really helpful.
With that team, yeah, because they're going to stretch the floor.
But he's got to be the one stretching the floor.
No.
Well, I mean, he's going to have a Durant. There are going to be other guys that are going to force the issue that opens things up for him.
Can he knock down those shots? I think he can, and I think he will, I hope he does. Amen Thompson. There's only 5 spots on the first team defensive team. He was one of them. First team all defense last year as a 22-year-old. 14 points, 8 rebounds a game. B. Smith, I don't know if you've seen the highlights.
Oh, he can play.
This guy's athletic ability is
it's through the roof.
It's shocking. He might be one of the 5 most athletic dudes in the NBA.
I mean, and also too, you got to remember, Udoka loves defense. I mean, he loves his offense, but his bread and butter is defense. You saw it when he was with the Celtics. You saw that team; they were developing.
And imagine Amen with a better jump shot as well. Like imagine an improved shooting season from Amen. I think that definitely is a possibility. That's definitely a possibility.
As soon as they heard they were getting Kevin Durant, I'd be like calling, "Yo, can we get up some shots together? What do you do?"
Yeah, I think being in practice with KD every day, I think that definitely is going to play a role.
He should be working with him right now.
You got the Rockets. The Rockets GM is on the phone with Amen Thompson. He's like, "Hey, work on your jumper." Hold on, I'm getting another call. Give me a second. Hello? No. Hey, Amen, I'm back. Hey, what was that? The Knicks called. They were asking for Ime. I don't know. Just work on your jumper.
Exactly. My point exactly. But no, if I'm Amen, I would. I mean, I'm sure he was excited the moment he heard Kevin Durant was coming to the team. In fact, if he didn't place that call and say, "Hey, welcome. When can we put up some shots together?"
Shane, would you agree? 100% B. Smith, 100%. Shane, would you agree that the Rockets are better than any team in the East?
Yeah, with this team,
that's an absolutely for me. That is a no question, 100%.
Hands down, actually. There's no real thinking.
I
think the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the T-Wolves are all better than any team in the East, in my estimation.
Looking at the Rockets specifically, I would say yes because they have a certified closer, and I think Amen and Sengun, they have all the tools, depth, defense. They have a closer, but I think the ceiling that Amen and Sengun have together, I think you could say is higher than almost any other team in the East. Like looking at their young stars, I mean, Detroit. I mean, Cade has a high ceiling. I would say Paolo has a high ceiling. Franz has a high ceiling. I mean, I think we're really seeing the best of what we'll see from Donovan Mitchell right now. I mean, he's not really a young guy, but
those guys have high ceilings, individual players, but their teams do not have as high.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that's obviously gives the Rockets the edge up because even though there are teams in the East that have depth, that have coaching, that have defense, the Rockets have all of those things, but also have a bona fide closer in KD, and then they also got 2 guys that could be those type of closers. Really by the end of this season, possibly as they continue to progress. So I would say the Rockets. I don't know if I would say who else did you name in the West?
Well, let's save that. Let's save it for the summer. Okay. We got a lot of podcasts coming up. I know that's going to be a long one. I would like to say, first of all, thank goodness that we didn't get to the Los Angeles Lakers. I am so glad that you chose the Rockets. I am not ready to talk about the Lakers yet. Do You guys want to do 5 minutes on this NFL trade that we got? We're already over the out. You want to do 5 quick minutes?
5 quick.
Yeah, we can do it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and Miami Dolphins made a trade. Rarely in the NFL do you see a player trade, right? In the NFL, a lot of times it's picks. Rarely do you see a big-name player just get traded for another big-name player. I should have done some research on this. There are not very many of those trades, but we had one. Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey are going from the Miami Dolphins to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mikah Fitzpatrick is going from the Pittsburgh Steelers back to the Miami Dolphins. There was a 5th and a 7th rounder mixed up in there, but the picks are kind of not really a major part of this. That is the trade. Who do you think won the trade? Number one, if anybody, right? Did these two teams just tread water, give each other a high five, and keep treading water, or did somebody win this trade and who?
It depends on what Pittsburgh needed and will it work.
You tell us.
I lean towards Pittsburgh because they're actually trying to build something. They really haven't the last few years. They were always missing a quarterback, and now they have Aaron Rodgers. It's not still saying a lot, but okay. But I just think that they've got some pieces that they're putting together right now. And with Mike Tomlin, he'll make it work. He's the guy that, you guys, we've heard him say enough times, a lot of it has to do with coaching. And he takes pride in that. He doesn't say, oh, it's the player's fault. No, what did you do as a coach to put him in the best place? So I could see that working for Pittsburgh, the slight edge to them.
Okay, so you like Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith with the Steelers a little better than Mikah Fitzpatrick with the Dolphins.
Yes.
I will throw this out there before you answer, Shane. Minka Fitzpatrick's contract, next year he's on the books for $15.5 million. He'll be 29 years old. The year after that, he's on the books for $17.6 million when he'll be 30 years old. Jalen Ramsey's contract, he is on the books next year for a $17 million dead cap hit, only $1 million in base salary. He'll be 31. And then, there's a potential out after that. You could get out of that contract. If not, $10 million at age 32, $10 million at age 33, $21 million at age 34. There's an easy out after this season for Jalen Ramsey. So hopefully that was not too confusing, but go ahead, Shane.
I think this, for the Steelers, this was probably the dumbest move. This might like the Steelers did a lot of dumb stuff this offseason. I think this may take the cake. Like, I think
it's
you
not
can at least
that dumb. I might agree with you.
No, it's dumb.
It's
It's
not
dumb.
that dumb.
It's dumb.
You're talking about a franchise that doesn't do many moves to begin with.
It's dumb.
They're very conservative in how they do stuff. So for them to even make the attempt to get an Aaron Rodgers, don't ask me why, and lean on that and trade off of Mikah Fitzpatrick to get a Jalen Ramsey, another player.
Let's Shane cook a little bit here, BC.
Yeah.
I just think it's really dumb. I mean, you trade an all-pro safety for Jalen. Now, no disrespect to Jalen Ramsey. When he's healthy, he's an elite corner. But, I mean, he hasn't really been healthy the past 2 seasons, roughly.
He played 17 games last year.
Was it last year? So it was the year before he got hurt. But I honestly, at this point in their careers, and especially for this defense, I'm sticking with a Minka over a Jalen Ramsey. I honestly think this was a weird trade to make, especially when you're trying to negotiate an extension with TJ Watt. The Steelers are in definitely better shape than the Dolphins, for sure. I mean, just all around roster wise, 100%, at least on the defense. But I just don't see the positive in this. Like, you make your defense older. I mean, this defense really would have been elite this coming season with a secondary with Minka. You add Darius Slay. You have a Joey Porter Jr. Deshaun Elliott has been taking steps forward. The D line, you add Derek Harmon instead of getting a quarterback, a guy who's supposed to be an elite D tackle in regards to this draft class. Cam Hayward, obviously Alex Highsmith. Then you're trying to just get that cherry on top with an extended TJ Watt. Like, this defense really could have been elite. Patrick Queen, but I just think
they added
trading away.
They added Jalen Ramsey to that defense.
To me, I think what Mikah was for this defense was more important than swapping that for what Jalen Ramsey could be. Especially at safety, I don't know.
Maybe they're just trying to win now. Maybe they just said,
But you win, but you still do that with Mikah, but you also have more time with him being a younger guy who is still like arguably the best DB like safety in the NFL. I don't.
Maybe there were concerns contract-wise. Maybe they were worrying about paying him too much.
Well, that would have to be the only reason.
I think the money probably did play a role.
That would have to be it, because it couldn't have been just off talent and ability.
Yeah, no. I think money may have played, because the Steelers aren't like high rollers. They're fiscally responsible, so to speak.
So I would say this. I would say that saying it's the dumbest trade you've seen is a little strong. I am open to either side having one. I think that cornerback is a more valuable position than safety in the NFL. Corners are more highly valued. You'd rather have a great corner than a great safety. Both players have played 27 games in the last 2 seasons combined. Now, I agree with you, Shane, that watching week to week, it feels like Jalen Ramsey is nicked up a lot. I will give you that. That's like the vibe that you get just as an NFL fan. But he started 17 games last season. Over the last 2 seasons combined, Mikah Fitzpatrick has 1 interception in 27 games. In his last 27 games, he's got 1 pick. And
maybe they don't throw to him.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough hand on the ball to put.
They don't throw to Jalen Ramsey either. He's got 5 picks over the course of
But you already brought in an elite corner in Darius Slay. You already have a good corner in Joey Porter Jr. Has there been any reporting around Jalen Ramsey switching to safety? There has, and that's another thing that makes it weird. You're trying to switch. You're saying corner is a more valuable position than safety. I think that's arguable depending on who we're talking about.
That's just a fact, man. Look at the draft capital. Look at the money. Corner is more valuable than safety as a position.
But I'm saying I think that changes though based on the names you're talking about. And especially when you're getting a guy to, if the rumors are true, this is, another speculation moment for us on this podcast tonight. But if you're getting a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who when healthy is an elite corner, to now switch him to playing safety, which is a totally different position, different mechanics, that doesn't sound right. Like, you're getting rid of your all-pro safety.
My guess would
be bring in. It just doesn't.
The Eagles elevated to a Super Bowl team last season, right? And they did it by playing 3 corners that all played elite ball. In today's NFL, having 3 corners, 3 really good cornerbacks is not a bad thing. That's seen as an advantage. So if the Steelers went and said, look, we are paying this guy a top 4 safety contract. He's really expensive at a non-premium position. We don't feel as though he has produced the way that we hoped he would over the last 2 years. We can go and get Jalen Ramsey. We have 3 elite. Well, Darius Slay is he elite these days?
He's definitely elite.
We'll say
when he's healthy. When he's healthy.
If you say that Slay and Ramsey and Porter, you have 3 high-level corners now on that defense. In the modern NFL, that is not a bad thing. You got out from a really expensive safety. You'd rather pay big money to a corner than a safety. And nobody's mentioned Jonnu Smith yet. Jonnu Smith made the Pro Bowl last year. He had 800-plus yards receiving. So the Steelers got an extra player in this deal as well. They got a tight end now. I think they've got multiple strong tight ends on that team. The Steelers love tight ends. So I am definitely not going to bash Pittsburgh for this trade.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But I am surprised. It's not. Minka is 2 years younger. Minka's 2 years younger, which matters. The last time that Jalen Ramsey made an All-Pro team was 2021. Minka made first-team All-Pro in 2022. So, I guess you're banking on Jalen Ramsey really being a declining player, whereas you think that Minka remains a superstar safety. The last 2 years, Minka, he has made 2 Pro Bowls, but he has not produced. And you say they don't throw.
But when you say production, though, And I'm not implying that you don't watch the games, but to talk about production for a DB, it's not the same as talking about production for a linebacker or a defensive lineman. Like if you see low numbers for a DB, that could be more of a good thing than seeing low numbers. You
typically associate that concept with corners more so than safeties. Though I do get what you're saying.
I think it's really the same. Like seeing one sack for Bryce Huff last year is totally different than seeing one interception for Mikah Fitzpatrick last year. I mean, it's two over the
last 2 years. Also, I do believe that there may have been some schematic changes, but if we look at Mikah Fitzpatrick, his strength as an NFL player, 2019, 5 picks, 2020, 4 picks, 2022, 6 interceptions, and he led the league. And then over the course of the last 2 years, 1 interception combined. It's not like they stopped throwing to him 2 years ago. That was a strength of his through his first 5 seasons in the league. He was creating turnovers, and he stopped doing that. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No. You finish.
No, I mean, if you look at the numbers, and look, there are schematic changes that we are not privy to. He's been listed as a free safety versus a strong safety. He's changed between those two a couple times. So obviously there's more than just number of interceptions, right? But if you look at Minkah's track record as a player, he created turnovers. Stopped doing that over the last 2 years. And maybe that's because there were changes in his job description. Maybe it's because quarterbacks stopped throwing at him. But in theory, if you're the Steelers, you brought him in with that in mind. And his best season with you, he had 6 picks and he was first-team All-Pro. And now all of a sudden he's not turning the ball over and he's making, I think, the 4th most money of any safety. Maybe you say we can go get an elite corner and a good tight end. Yeah. And then now we don't have to pay this guy. It's going to be his 29-year season. I don't know. I like Mikah Fitzpatrick. And I'm not saying that the interception number is the end-all, be-all. But if you're looking at over the last 2 seasons, he has not on paper been the Mikah Fitzpatrick that the Steelers traded for when they made the deal.
But they're also, in looking at that lack in production that you're referring to, you also have to take into account the upgrades that this D line has made, that this front 5 has made over the past few years. Because that also, as if any teams proved that concept, it was the Eagles in 2022. I mean, if you look at that defense against the pass, that defense was looked at as so dominant because of how dominant the D line was. The D line was so dominant.
Minka's had TJ and Cam in front of him since he got there.
But that's what I'm saying. But they also added more pieces. They also added Alex Highsmith, who got significantly better over the last few years since he has been there. That creates more pressure on the front. So the better the D line is, the less times the quarterback is even able to make a play down the field to where he's testing the secondary. So when you look at the progression TJ Watt has made since they drafted him, when you look at the effect that has had on Cam Hayward, you look at the progression that Alex Highsmith has made, when you look at even the addition of Preston Smith, what he was able to do in that rotation playing behind Watt and Highsmith, then the work they did on their linebackers, I think the lack in production, I don't think is evident to a decline necessarily for Minkah. I just think that means that this front 5 has been dominant, and there's no question the Steelers' defense has been the highlight of the squad since. Historically has been the highlight of this team. It's just, I don't think the decline in production for Minkah is evident as a connection to a decline in his actual ability. I just don't, because TJ Watt disrupts a lot up front. Cam Hayward disrupts a lot up front. Alex Highsmith is really arguably the most underrated pass rusher and edge in the NFL. Patrick Queen, as talented as he is, I don't think that is. I get the connection. I think that has to be taken into account too when we're trying to say Minkah may not be as elite as he once was. Because looking at those games, Minkah made quite a few bang plays this year when he was tested.
He's always going to make bang plays, and he did make the Pro Bowl. I know B. Smith doesn't like advanced stats. If we look at added value, 2019, 16. 2020, 14, 2021.
I like him sometimes.
11. And then the last few years, 6 and 8. He has seen a decline in advanced stats as well. Yeah. But I also think that, again, you'd rather have a great corner than a great safety. And if you
But they're not
Jalen
playing him
Ramsey,
at corner. I'm looking at the roster right now. They plan on
they're going
using
to play Ramsey
Jalen
at corner?
Ramsey. No, they plan on using Jalen Ramsey the same way the Eagles used Cooper DeJean last year, as more of a nickel guy, hybrid guy. They're not having Jalen Ramsey play his true to play style ball. Like, they're not having him play Jalen Ramsey style football. At least how we've seen him play.
If you have Jalen Ramsey playing the Cooper DeJean role, that seems like a very solid player in that role. That seems like it'd be very helpful for a defense.
We can say that, but it's something that we haven't seen yet. Therefore, it's untested. I don't know.
Maybe they're just trying something new in this case. A lot of players, veteran players who come over from another team, they're used to playing a certain way. But I'm sure that the conversation probably was had, hey, we see some great abilities here that can work in these set of circumstances, and you're not, for lack of a better term, you're not burdened with having to play more than what he normally does. Just do this, we'll take care of the rest. And some guys have had great success doing that.
It makes me uneasy. It makes me uneasy. It just makes me uneasy. Like, I'm not saying that the defense will be a bust this year per se. The fact that I don't know would make me as a GM hesitant to going through with this deal, trading away what I know to be a sure thing in Minkah. It just makes me uneasy. I
hate using a baseball term for football, but I'll just throw out an example. John Smoltz, Hall of Famer, with the Braves, hurt his elbow, wasn't quite the same. They put him in the bullpen, and he lasted like a few more years as a closer for the Braves. So I'm not saying Jalen Ramsey is John Smoltz, but it's one of those situations where maybe he could take a slightly reduced defensive role and have them take care of other stuff because he has this great innate ability that could work for them.
But you guys are unmoved by the Jonnu Smith addition to this situation.
I mean, I like the move. Yeah.
Shane hasn't mentioned it a single time, I don't think. Oh, he might be frozen. Maybe that's why he hasn't mentioned it, because he's frozen.
He is frozen, I think.
Listen, I think Shane is frozen.
Shane, wake up.
Say something about Jonnu Smith, man.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith set franchise records for receptions and receiving yards by a tight end last season for the Miami Dolphins. That's not a nothing player.
No.
So if Jalen Ramsey can be close to what Fitzpatrick was as a safety, then, you just added – God, Ramsey at safety for what, $26 million next season if they pick up his entire deal? It's a tough one. I also fall back to this, B. Smith, and I know that I think you and I can relate on this, is that if the Dolphins and Steelers make a trade, track record-wise, the Steelers are a smarter front office and organization. And so you're inclined to look at it twice and say, all right, what did the smart team do?
Yeah.
And why did they do it?
Yeah.
So I think that
I'm sure they had a conversation. They just re-upped their GM.
They did, Khan.
I just have a funny feeling that he probably went to Mike Tomlin, Newport News native, and said, hey, what kind of tweaks do you want to do to your defense? I don't know if it's anything like that, but it's more along the lines of, what do you, or for an offensive side, what do you need? It's like, hey, we're looking at doing this. Do you think that will work with you?
Yeah.
And that conversation is usually had between the head coach and the general manager.
Do you think Shane rage quit here? He couldn't believe we didn't have Mike Brown, so he just
he'll be back.
We gotta hop off soon. Let's get him back on. He logged out. He said he's coming back on. All right, he's making his way back on. You know what, B. Smith? While Shane's gone, give me some Clayton Kershaw.
Wow. First of all, I was kind of taken aback when he got his 3,000 career strikeout, and I was like, whoa,
it's a lot.
I didn't think that was going to happen.
I know.
He became the 20th major league pitcher. It's amazing. Well over 100 years, there have only been 20 pitchers who've struck out 3,000 in their career. An interesting side note, he becomes the fourth pitcher ever to get 3,000 strikeouts with one team. Who were the other three?
Oh, we did this. Oh, you're
And we
asking.
did it.
Walter
We did it.
Johnson, Steve
Yep.
Carlton, and Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson.
Pretty darn good. And
And I remember seeing Steve Carlton and Bob Gibson as pitchers. They were.
I'm going to give you Clayton Kershaw from 2011 to 2017. I'm going to give you his finishes in the Cy Young. You ready?
Yes.
First, second, first, MVP, third, fifth, second. That is 1, 2, 3. That is 7 years of absolute dominance by Clayton Kershaw. Best pitcher in the game for the better part of a decade. But, B. Smith, I know that when we talk Clayton Kershaw, you know where everyone's going to go. And I am a casual baseball watcher.
Yes.
And what I know Clayton Kershaw for is struggling in the postseason.
Struggles in the postseason. I know. You have to give someone their due. Yes.
100%. I think he might be the greatest pitcher of his generation. We got Shane back. We got to cut the baseball talk. We got Shane back in here. Shane, I want to wrap up my thoughts, and then you can wrap up your thoughts, and then we can get out of here. I would agree with you that I do think Mikah Fitzpatrick is the best player in this deal, full stop. When you look at the value of safety versus corner, I think that's an important thing to note. And what B. Smith and I were talking about, something that maybe is clouding my judgment, is that when I look at a trade like this, where it's a little strange and I can't quite tell who won, I default to the fact that if the Steelers and the Dolphins are trading, the odds are the Steelers are getting the better of that deal. They have been the smarter, more stable organization for the last 20 years. And so when I look at a deal like this, I tend to lean towards the Steelers if it's a deal that seems to not give me strong feelings towards either side on my own. So Mikah Fitzpatrick, I think, is the best overall player in the deal, but you get Smith and Ramsey. You don't pay a safety $15 million, and the Steelers have the track record. So that's where I fall. But I do agree with you that full stop, Minkah is the best player in this trade, and maybe that's enough to say the Dolphins won the trade.
I mean, I think you bring up a fair point. I mean, the Steelers are proven to be a more strategic organization than the Dolphins 100%. I don't know. I don't see. But then also, I think it could also do with my trust in Aaron Rodgers. I think if maybe I trusted Aaron Rodgers a little more in this scheme, I would look at Jonnu and say, okay, this is worth it. Like, we're giving our starting QB a Pro Bowler tight end to work with within this offense. I think maybe my Aaron Rodgers trust plays into that too, just because I think that decision was questionable.
You don't trust Aaron Rodgers?
I think that was. If we were talking about, maybe if they decided to draft a Shador, or make another more reliable or dependable offseason move in terms of a proven quarterback, I could see what you were saying. I could see what you're saying, Connor, and say, okay, they're adding a Pro Bowl pass catcher to their new pass thrower, to their new thrower of the football. I could see it being worth it then. I don't know if my faith in Aaron Rodgers is enough for me to look at this trade and say, you know what, I think getting Aaron Rodgers another target to work with is worth us losing our all-pro safety, possibly making our defense that has been the highlight of our squad, arguably the most elite defense in the NFL, or one of them at least. Maybe the Steelers, they're up there with the Eagles, maybe up there with maybe the Chiefs, at least in the playoffs. Like, I think taking that away from the highlight of our squad, I just don't know if that would be, it just makes it less worth it to me.
Speaking of the Chiefs, the Steelers did sign Juan Thornhill. So
they did. I did see that.
Yeah,
they did see that.
B. Smith, one more word, and then we're getting out of here.
Oh, about Clayton Kershaw.
Whatever you want, man. Last word.
I know you guys aren't baseball guys like I am, but I love the fact that Clayton Kershaw is now part of the 3,000 strikeout club. You think about it, and I got to look this up real quick because as far as Dodgers lore, he's one of the great left-handers. But I think he has like 215 wins in his career, has a pair of World Series titles with the Dodgers. Definitely one of the Dodger favorites. As I said, he becomes the fourth pitcher with 3,000 career strikeouts, but also with one team joining a Bob Gibson, a Steve Carlton, and Walter the Big Train Johnson in that group. That's an elite group. And I don't know. I mean, think about it. We still have a couple of guys right now who are playing who have over 3,000 strikeouts in their career. Justin Verlander, former ODU product, as well as Max Scherzer. Future Hall of Famers in their own right. But Clayton Kershaw, welcome to the 3,000 strikeout club.
Boom. And fun fact about Clayton Kershaw was on the same little league team as Matt Stafford, quarterback of the Los Angeles.
Wow, that's right.
All right, let me make sure that the Lakers didn't trade DeAndre Ayton for Giannis straight up. Okay. We'll keep an eye out for that. Let's get at it. Shane, what, you got one more thing? We already did
just a quick question. B. Smith, pitching for your life, who are you taking, Kershaw or Hunter Forrest?
Who?
Dang.
Stop. I'm taking Kershaw. I love Hunter.
Dang. Hey, I would take Brian Smith over both of them.
Oh, no.
And that is it for another episode of the 13 News Now Sports Overtime Podcast. Shout out DeAndre Ayton. Shout out Hunter Forrest. We'll see you next week.